The kiss happened so suddenly that time itself seemed to freeze. One moment they were shouting at each other, tears welling in his eyes as he defended his right to be both a father and an employee, and the next moment her lips were on his, desperate, afraid, and filled with all the words she'd never been able to say. When they finally broke apart, the entire office watching through the glass walls, a single tear rolled down her cheek. It was the first time anyone had ever seen Victoria Stone cry. If this emotional journey is already touching your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Every story deserves to be heard, and your support helps us bring more tearjerkers like this one to life. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Marcus Reed stared at his wife's photograph, his fingers tracing the outline of her smile. "I miss you every day, Sarah," he whispered. "But I promise I'm taking care of our little girl." 2 years had passed since cancer had stolen her from them, leaving Marcus to raise 6-year-old Lily alone. The medical bills had drained their savings, forcing him to sell their family home and move to a small apartment. After months of searching, he'd finally landed a job at Stone Innovations, a prestigious design firm that could offer the stability they desperately needed. "Daddy?" Lily's small voice pulled him from his thoughts. She stood in the doorway of her bedroom, clutching the teddy bear Sarah had given her on her 4th birthday. "I had the dream again. The one where Mommy comes back." Marcus's heart shattered all over again as he gathered his daughter in his arms. "Come here, sweetheart." He held her close, feeling her tears soak through his shirt. "Mommy loves you so much, and she's always watching over us. But sometimes, even when we love someone, we have to say goodbye." "I don't want to say goodbye," Lily sobbed, her small body shaking. "I want her to come back." "I know, baby. I know." Marcus rocked her gently, swallowing the lump in his throat. "How about you sleep with Daddy tonight?" As Lily finally drifted off to sleep beside him, Marcus stared at the ceiling, anxiety gnawing at his stomach. Tomorrow was his first day reporting directly to Victoria Stone, the CEO known throughout the industry as the Ice Queen. His colleagues had warned him, she was brilliant but merciless, demanding perfection and showing no tolerance for excuses, no matter how valid. But he had no choice. This job was their life. Victoria Stone stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, watching the city below come to life in the early morning light. At 35, she had built Stone Innovations from nothing, transforming it from a struggling startup to an industry leader through sheer force of will and a refusal to accept anything less than excellence. "Your 9 o'clock is here," her assistant announced through the intercom. Victoria checked her watch. 9:17 a.m. She felt the familiar tightening in her chest, the disappointment, the confirmation that people would always let you down if given the chance. "Send him in," she replied, her voice cold. Marcus entered, his tie slightly askew and dark circles under his eyes. "Ms. Stone, I sincerely apologize for my tardiness." "My daughter was, Mr. Reed," she interrupted, not bothering to look up from her desk. "I don't pay you for excuses. I pay you for results. And right now, the result is that you've wasted 17 minutes of my time." She finally looked up, meeting his gaze with steel in her eyes. What she saw surprised her, not the usual intimidation or resentment, but a quiet dignity and something deeper, a profound sadness that seemed to live behind his eyes. "It won't happen again," he said simply. "See that it doesn't." Victoria handed him a folder. "The Johnson project needs a complete redesign by Friday. Their CEO hated everything your predecessor submitted." Marcus took the folder, his fingers brushing against hers for the briefest moment. Victoria pulled her hand back as if burned, unaccustomed to physical contact of any kind. "I'll have it on your desk Thursday morning," he promised. As he turned to leave, Victoria noticed a small drawing peeking out from his portfolio, a child's artwork of a man and a little girl holding hands under a rainbow. "Demar. Reed," she called after him. "One more thing." He turned, bracing himself for another reprimand. "This company doesn't offer special treatment. Your personal circumstances are your own to manage." Something flashed in his eyes, not anger, but a deep, weary pain. My personal circumstances have a name, Miss Stone. She's 6 years old and she's lost her mother. I don't expect special treatment, but I do expect basic human decency. The door closed behind him with a soft click, leaving Victoria standing alone, an unfamiliar feeling settling in her chest, something that felt uncomfortably like shame. Days turned into weeks, and Marcus proved himself to be exceptional at his job. His designs were innovative yet practical, his client presentations flawless. He worked efficiently during office hours, often completing tasks ahead of schedule, but he never stayed late. At 5:30 p.m. sharp, he would pack up his things and leave to pick up Lily from after-school care. Victoria found herself watching him more often than she cared to admit. There was something about his quiet determination that intrigued her. Unlike others who cowered or resented her demanding nature, Marcus simply met each challenge with calm resolve. One evening, as a thunderstorm raged outside, Victoria was working late as usual when she heard a child's voice from the reception area. "Daddy, is this where you make the pretty pictures?" Victoria stepped out of her office to see Marcus kneeling beside a small girl with dark curls and eyes that matched his own. The child's raincoat was dripping onto the polished floor, and she clutched a worn teddy bear under one arm. "Lily, what are you doing here? Where's Mrs. Chen?" Marcus asked, his voice tight with concern. "The power went out at her house, and she couldn't reach you on your phone," Lily explained. "She brought me here because she had to go check on her mom." Victoria cleared her throat, and Marcus looked up, his face paling when he saw her. "Ms. Stone, I'm so sorry. The storm must have affected the cell towers. I'll take her home right away." "Daddy, who's that lady?" Lily whispered loudly, staring at Victoria with unabashed curiosity. "That's Miss Stone. She's Daddy's boss," Marcus explained, hurriedly gathering Lily's backpack. Victoria found herself walking forward, drawn by something she couldn't name. She crouched down to Lily's level, surprising herself as much as Marcus. "Hello, Lily. I'm Victoria." She offered her hand formally, as if greeting a business associate. Lily giggled and shook it enthusiastically. "Your office is pretty. Do you make pictures like Daddy?" "No, I'm afraid I'm not very good at making pictures. That's why I need your daddy's help." The child nodded sagely. "Daddy makes the best pictures. He drew Mommy for me so I won't forget her face." Victoria felt something crack inside her carefully constructed armor. She looked up at Marcus, who was watching the interaction with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "The storm is getting worse," Victoria said, standing up. "The weather service is advising against travel. You can use the conference room until it passes." "That's not necessary," Marcus began. "That I insist," Victoria cut him off, but her voice lacked its usual edge. "There are snacks in the break room. Help yourselves." As she walked back to her office, Victoria heard Lily's voice. "She seems nice, Daddy. Why do you say she's scary?" Victoria smiled despite herself. Hours later, after Lily had fallen asleep on the conference room sofa, Victoria found Marcus standing by the windows, watching the storm. "She's a remarkable child," Victoria said quietly. Marcus turned, surprise evident on his face. "Thank you. She's everything to me." "You're doing it alone." It wasn't a question. "Since Sarah died, yes." He looked back at the storm. "Cancer. 2 years ago." Victoria felt the weight of his words. "I'm sorry." "Everyone is," he said with a sad smile. "But sorry doesn't help Lily understand why her mother isn't coming back. Sorry doesn't make the nightmares stop." Victoria found herself sharing something she'd never told anyone at the company. "My father died when I was 16. Suicide, after his business partner embezzled funds and destroyed everything he'd built." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time. "Is that why you built this company? To prove something?" "To prove everything," Victoria admitted. "That I could succeed where he failed. That I didn't need anyone else." And have you? Succeeded, I mean. Victoria gestured around them, at the gleaming offices that bore her name. Evidently. That's not what I meant, Marcus said gently. All this, the company, the success, it's impressive. But are you happy, Victoria? The question hit her like a physical blow. No one had asked her that in years. Before she could formulate a response, Lily stirred and called out for her father. As Marcus went to comfort his daughter, Victoria retreated to her office, his question echoing in her mind. The annual client gala was approaching, Stone Innovation's most important event of the year. The entire team was working overtime to prepare presentations and displays. Victoria drove them relentlessly, her demands growing more exacting as the date approached. 2 days before the event, disaster struck. Marcus received a call from Lily's school. She had fallen during recess and broken her arm. He rushed to Victoria's office, his face pale with worry. I need to go to the hospital. Lily's hurt. Victoria looked up from her computer, her expression hardening. The Westfield presentation is tomorrow. Your designs aren't finalized. My daughter has a broken arm, Marcus said, his voice rising. She's scared and in pain. The presentation can wait. Nothing waits in this business, Victoria snapped. You made a commitment to this company. And I made a commitment to my daughter first, Marcus replied, his hands shaking. Fire me if you have to, but I'm going to her. As he turned to leave, Victoria called after him. The presentation is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. If you're not here, don't bother coming back. The office fell silent as Marcus walked out, heads turning to watch the confrontation. Victoria ignored the stares, returning to her work with mechanical precision, ignoring the voice in her head that whispered she had gone too far. Hours later, Victoria sat alone in her office, staring at the Westfield presentation on her screen. The designs were good, but something was missing, the spark of creativity that Marcus brought to every project. She rubbed her temples, the beginnings of a migraine pulsing behind her eyes. Almost without conscious thought, she found herself driving to the children's hospital. The receptionist directed her to the pediatric ward, where she found Marcus sitting beside a hospital bed, reading softly to a small figure with a bright pink cast on her arm. Victoria stood in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. What was she doing here? This wasn't like her. She was about to turn away when Lily spotted her. Ms. Victoria, the child called out, her face lighting up despite the pain medication making her drowsy. Did you come to sign my cast? Marcus turned, shock evident on his face. Victoria? What are you doing here? Victoria stepped into the room, feeling strangely vulnerable without the protection of her office. I wanted to see how Lily was doing. That's very kind of you, Marcus said cautiously. Victoria approached the bed, taking in Lily's pale face and the tears that had dried on her cheeks. Does it hurt very much? She asked softly. Lily nodded solemnly. But Daddy says I'm brave like Mommy was. Victoria felt her throat tighten. I'm sure you are. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small stuffed rabbit she had impulsively purchased in the gift shop. I thought you might like some company. Lily's eyes widened as she accepted the gift. She can be friends with Teddy. Thank you, Ms. Victoria. You're welcome, Lily. Victoria turned to Marcus. May I speak with you outside for a moment? In the hallway, Victoria struggled to find the right words. The presentation tomorrow. I'll be there, Marcus interrupted. My mother is driving in tonight to stay with Lily. That's not necessary, Victoria said. I've rescheduled for next week. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. You never reschedule. Yes, well. Victoria straightened her jacket, uncomfortable with his scrutiny. First time for everything. Why did you come here, Victoria? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to address. I don't know, she admitted finally, the honesty surprising them both. I just needed to. The night of the gala arrived, and Stone Innovation's showroom was transformed into an elegant venue filled with clients, potential investors, and industry leaders. Victoria moved through the crowd with practiced ease, her black evening gown and perfect composure creating an aura of untouchable elegance. Marcus arrived late, having stopped to check on Lily before joining the event. Victoria watched him enter, noting how different he looked in his tuxedo, his usual weariness hidden beneath a polished exterior. Their eyes met across the room, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition, perhaps, of how much had changed since that stormy night. The evening progressed smoothly until Victoria overheard a conversation between two board members. "Stone's getting soft," one said, swirling his whiskey. "Rescheduling the Westfield presentation for an employee's personal issues? That's not the Victoria we know. Maybe it's time to consider new leadership," the other replied. "Someone who understands that business comes first." Victoria felt a cold fury rise within her. These men, who had contributed nothing to building her company, presumed to judge her decisions. Before she could confront them, Marcus appeared at her side. "Everything all right?" he asked quietly, noting her expression. "Fine," she replied tersely. "Just reminded why I never show weakness in this industry." Marcus followed her gaze to the board members. "Compassion isn't weakness, Victoria. In my experience, it's exploited as such." She turned to face him fully. "Why are you here, Marcus?" "Really?" "Because I believe in what you've built," he said simply. "And because I think you're more than the ice queen everyone fears." Before Victoria could respond, it was time for her speech. She took the stage, looking out at the faces of people who respected her achievements but knew nothing of her struggles. "Stone Innovations was built on a promise," she began, deviating from her prepared remarks. "A promise I made to myself when I had nothing. That I would create something lasting, something meaningful." She paused, her eyes finding Marcus in the crowd. "But I've recently been reminded that companies aren't built by individuals alone. They're built by people who bring their whole selves to work, their talents, their experiences, their hearts." A murmur ran through the audience, surprised by this unexpected vulnerability from the notoriously stoic CEO. "Tonight, we celebrate not just our success, but the human connections that make that success worthwhile. Thank you all for being part of this journey." The applause was thunderous, but Victoria only saw Marcus's face, the pride and something else, something warmer, in his eyes. Later, as the event wound down, they found themselves alone on the balcony overlooking the city. "That wasn't your usual speech," Marcus observed. "No," Victoria agreed. "It wasn't." "What changed?" Victoria looked at him, really looked at him, the walls she'd built around herself beginning to crumble. "I did. Or rather, I'm trying to." "Because of Lily?" "Because of both of you," she admitted. "You made me question everything I thought I knew about strength and weakness." Marcus stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him in the cool night air. "And what did you conclude?" "That I've been hiding behind my success, using it as a shield against connection. Against pain." Victoria's voice wavered slightly. "I watched you with Lily, how you're so open with your love for her despite the pain of losing your wife, and I realized I've been a coward." "You're many things, Victoria Stone, but a coward isn't one of them," Marcus said softly. "Isn't it? I've spent my entire adult life afraid to care about anyone because I might lose them. I've pushed away everyone who tried to get close." "Not everyone," Marcus said, his hand finding hers in the darkness. "I'm still here." Victoria looked down at their joined hands, feeling something break open inside her, terrifying and beautiful all at once. "Why? After everything I've put you through, why are you still here?" Because underneath all that armor is someone worth knowing," Marcus said, his voice gentle but firm. Someone who drives to a hospital with a stuffed rabbit for a little girl she barely knows. Someone who reschedules important meetings because compassion matters more than business. Someone who's been hurt so deeply she's afraid to let anyone see her heart. Victoria felt tears threatening to spill, something that hadn't happened in years. I don't know how to do this, Marcus. I don't know how to be vulnerable. You start by admitting exactly what you just did, he said with a small smile. And then you take it one day at a time. The weeks following the gala brought subtle but significant changes to Stone Innovations. Victoria still demanded excellence, but her approach softened. She instituted flexible working hours for parents, created a dedicated family room where employees could bring children in emergencies, and even began hosting monthly team lunches where work talk was forbidden. The board members who had questioned her leadership were silenced by record profits and unprecedented employee retention rates. As it turned out, loyalty born of respect accomplished far more than fear ever could. Victoria found herself spending more time with Marcus and Lily, weekend outings to the park, movie nights with homemade popcorn, and quiet evenings talking after Lily had gone to bed. She learned about Sarah through their stories, coming to understand the profound loss they had experienced and the courage it took them to keep moving forward. But as they grew closer, Victoria's old fears resurfaced. One evening, as she helped Lily with a school art project at Marcus's apartment, the reality of what was happening hit her with full force. She was falling in love with this man and his daughter, opening herself to the possibility of devastating loss. That I should go, she said suddenly, standing up so abruptly she knocked over a cup of colored pencils. Victoria? Marcus looked up in confusion. What's wrong? Nothing. I just remembered some work I need to finish. The lie felt bitter on her tongue. Lily looked up from her drawing, disappointment clear on her face. But you promised to stay for spaghetti. Daddy makes the best spaghetti in the world. I'm sorry, Lily. Another time. Victoria gathered her things, avoiding Marcus's questioning gaze. Victoria, wait, Marcus followed her to the door. Talk to me. What's happening? This is a mistake, she said, her voice tight with suppressed emotion. All of this, getting involved in your lives, blurring the lines between professional and personal. It's unprofessional and inappropriate. Is that really what you're worried about? Professional boundaries? Marcus asked quietly. Or are you scared of what's happening between us? Victoria felt exposed, as if he could see right through her carefully constructed defenses. There is nothing happening between us, Mr. Reed. You're my employee, and I've allowed myself to forget that fact. The formal address hit him like a physical blow. So we're back to that now? After everything? It's better this way, Victoria said, reaching for the door handle. Clearer. Coward, Marcus said softly, the word stopping her cold. You're running away because you're afraid of feeling something real. Victoria turned, anger flashing in her eyes. You don't understand what you're asking of me. I built my entire life around never needing anyone, never being vulnerable to loss again. And you want me to risk everything for what? Some fantasy of family that could be ripped away at any moment? Yes, Marcus said simply. That's exactly what I'm asking. Because that's what living is, Victoria. It's risking your heart every single day for the people you love, knowing it might break but choosing to love anyway. I can't, she whispered, tears finally spilling over. I don't know how. Yes, you do, Marcus said, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. You've been doing it already. With Lily. With me. You just haven't admitted it to yourself. Before she could respond, Lily appeared in the hallway, clutching her drawing. Ms. Victoria, don't go. I made this for you. Victoria looked down at the picture, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. A man, a little girl, and a woman with long dark hair. That's you, and me, and Daddy, Lily explained, pointing to each figure. We're a family in my picture. Victoria felt something break inside her, the last wall protecting her heart crumbling to dust. With a sob, she knelt and gathered Lily into her arms, holding her as if she might disappear. "It's beautiful, Lily," she managed through her tears. "It's the most beautiful picture I've ever seen." Over Lily's head, her eyes met Marcus's, and in that moment, something profound passed between them, an understanding, a promise, a beginning. The following Monday, Victoria called an emergency board meeting. She stood before the members with a confidence born not of armor but of certainty. "I'm instituting a new company policy," she announced. "Effective immediately, I will be dating an employee. If anyone has concerns about conflicts of interest, my door is open. If anyone suggests that this relationship compromises my leadership or his position, I'll remind you that Stone Innovations has always valued merit above all else." The boardroom erupted in murmurs of surprise and confusion. "That's all," Victoria concluded with a small smile. Meeting adjourned. As the board members filed out, some bemused and others concerned, Marcus appeared in the doorway, having heard everything. "That was quite an announcement," he said, closing the door behind him. "I thought it best to address the situation directly," Victoria replied, her professional tone belied by the warmth in her eyes. "Transparency is important in business." "Is that what this is? Business?" Marcus asked, moving closer. "No," Victoria admitted, her voice softening. "This is me choosing to be brave. This is me choosing you and Lily, whatever that means, whatever risks come with it." "And what changed your mind?" Victoria smiled, thinking of the drawing now framed on her bedside table. "I realized that the walls I built to keep pain out were also keeping love out. And a life without love isn't really living at all." Marcus reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "So what happens now?" "Now?" Victoria took a deep breath, stepping into the unknown with her heart wide open. "Now we figure it out together. One day at a time." 6 months later, Victoria stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching as Marcus tucked his daughter in for the night. The room, once sparse and functional in Victoria's guest bedroom, was now transformed with colorful decorations, stuffed animals, and framed drawings, evidence of the life they were building together. "Victoria, come say good night," Lily called, spotting her in the doorway. Victoria sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing Lily's curls away from her forehead. "Good night, sweetheart. Sweet dreams. Will you be here when I wake up?" Lily asked, her eyes already heavy with sleep. Victoria exchanged a glance with Marcus, love and gratitude reflected in his gaze. "Yes, Lily. I'll be here tomorrow, and the day after that, and all the days after that. Promise?" Lily mumbled, drifting off. "Promise," Victoria whispered, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "With all my heart." Later, as they stood on the balcony of what was now their shared home, Marcus wrapped his arms around Victoria from behind, both of them gazing at the city lights below. "Happy?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. Victoria turned in his arms, remembering the question he had asked her that stormy night so long ago, the question that had started everything. "Yes," she said simply, truthfully. "For the first time in my life, completely happy." As their lips met in a kiss far gentler than their first heated one in her office, Victoria marveled at how the most unexpected journey of her life had led her exactly where she needed to be, in the arms of the man who had taught her to be brave, with the love of a child who had shown her how to open her heart again. The Ice Queen had melted, and in her place stood simply Victoria, loved, loving, and finally, truly alive. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear that love is always worth the risk. Your support means everything to us, and helps us bring more emotional stories like this one to life. Thank you for watching.